No, Secretary of State, Claire Cortina.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Secretary of State for advance sight of his statement. I know this has been a difficult decision for him. He told everyone his flagship mission was to commission more renewable power than ever before by 2030, more wind than ever before, faster than ever before, in a market that was already facing supply chain challenges and soaring costs. I said at the time that that was completely unfeasible, but if he was going to do it, then he should be taking every opportunity to minimise the grid infrastructure that needs to be built and the costs of his plans. But I know, on the other hand, he will have had wind developers tell him that if he takes those decisions, if he makes those choices, then they won't be bidding into his auction in the next couple of years. The auctions that he needs them to bid into so he can meet his self-imposed targets. And that's because they want to protect their returns. So when faced with a choice between protecting the profits of wind developers or cutting bills for the British people, he's chosen the wind developers. And they know that they have him over a barrel. Because in setting himself an unachievable 2030 target, which was based on ideology and ideology alone, he was telling those wind developers that he's got to buy whatever they are selling, no matter the price. Now, a little over a year ago, the Secretary of State told the country that their bills would come down by up to £300. But the statement today shows that when push comes to shove, he will choose higher bills for the British people to fund profits for renewable energy companies. And worse still, what he didn't mention is that today's announcement means higher bills to pay billions for wind farms not to produce energy, but simply to switch off for constraint payments. I have warned him repeatedly about the risks of building more wind before grid and asking him to continue my work on a full systems cost of energy, which includes the cost of backup and the cost of constraint payments. But he didn't listen. He axed that work because he didn't want to know what those costs were. Instead, last year, he signed us up to the most expensive wind prices in a decade. They were about £86 per megawatt hour. That's almost 15% higher than the average cost of electricity for the last year, which has been about £74. This year's prices will probably be the same, if not higher, and the difference is that he wants longer contracts. He wants to extend those contracts to 20 years. What he has not explained is how locking us into much higher prices for longer will bring down bills from here, but that is what he has promised the British public. And there is more. His plan requires more grid to be built faster than before. That's £74 on household bills. His plans mean constraint payments, paying wind farms to switch off, will rise to £8 billion. That's £100 on bills. And now we read that we're going to be paying solar farms to switch off when it's sunny too, and the OBR says that green levies are going to rise by £5 billion. Now, people may have noticed he used to talk a lot about cheaper energy, but now he talks about less volatile prices. But what his backbenchers need to realise is that most people wouldn't swap a 4% variable rate mortgage for an 8% fixed one. What they care about is the price of their bills, and they want cheaper prices. But if he was truly interested in bringing down bills, he wouldn't have scrapped an analysis that I started last year to find out the true cost of a system dominated by wind and solar. And I've now read twice in 1 week that Downing Street are starting to pressure the Secretary of State about when his plans might actually bring down bills. And all I can say is, I share the feeling. But what they might have wanted to ask, before they repeated all of the empty promises about cutting bills, that £300, is where was his evidence? So I ask him now, would he reinstate that cost of energy work so we can clearly see the differences between the systems? Would he set out a roadmap which will point out exactly how he will lower those bills? Will he confirm he won't sign up to prices in this year's wind auction which are higher than the current average cost of electricity? And can he confirm, did he have a full cost-benefit analysis of the choices in front of him today? And will he share the views of Ofgem and the NESO? And I'll leave him with 2 quotes. The chief executive of Octopus Energy, one of the country's biggest advocates for renewables, said his plans today mean soaring costs locked in for years to come, with more on the way. And the more we build, the worse it gets for years. He says it's brutal for families and it's crippling for growth. I think he just said in his statement that the biggest problem for businesses is uncertainty, but actually it's not, it's high energy costs. And another quote, which is perhaps the most revealing one of all, one of his closest advisors, his chief energy system advisor. If we procure lots and lots of renewable generation and then we don't build the grid that allows it to get to markets, we'll be wasting lots of money. I couldn't have put it better myself.
Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, this is the first time I'm opposite her at the dispatch box. Can I start by personally congratulating her on her new baby boy and welcome her back to the House of Commons. Obviously, I know from my own personal experience the crying at night is challenging, but who's surprised given the state of the Conservative Party, Madam Deputy Speaker? Let me sort of respond directly to her. I think we have a number of differences. Look, the fundamental difference is this, which is she wants to gamble in the fossil fuel casino. She wants to gamble on fossil fuel prices. That's what the Conservative Party did when they were in office, and it led to the worst cost of living crisis in generations. It destroyed family. It's not true, she says, from a sedentary position. It absolutely is true, and I think she needs to get out there more, and she'll hear what people have to say to her. It ruined family finances, it ruined business finances, it ruined the public finances. And what do, Madam Deputy Speaker? Do they come along after their worst election defeat in 200 years and think, well, maybe we got it a bit wrong, maybe we should think again? No, they come along and they double down. They double down on a failed strategy. That's the first point. The second point is this. She says that we have a problem of constraint costs, that it's really a problem that we don't have the infrastructure we need as a country. Absolutely right. Who was in charge for 14 years, Madam Deputy Speaker? And by the way, don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. I notice her colleague, the Shadow Energy Minister, is not in his place, but this is what he said. It's absurd, the fact that under 14 years of Conservative government, we are now in a situation where it's more difficult to build critical national infrastructure projects than it was when we came into power, and costs more. And that's what we've got. So whether it is the grid system, which was massively backed up, a planning system that was in disrepute, the network, the transmission infrastructure that wasn't built. So that's the second point. Third point. Now, she now says, well, okay, well, let's forget about the past, to ignore my record, to airbrush out my record, but, let's build the grid. Too right, we should build the grid, but she's going around opposing new clean energy infrastructure all around the country, saying, oh, it's terrible, we shouldn't be having this happening. So at the level of strategy about what is the right thing for the country, at the level of record and why we are in this position, and at the level of what she is doing now, I'm afraid she's in the wrong place. Now, what are we doing? We're actually changing all of this. And in the period that she's been away, we have seen a whole set of decisions made that they talked about but never delivered. From nuclear power, they talked a lot about Sizewell and SMRs and all that, didn't actually deliver it, but we're actually delivering it, Madam Deputy Speaker. Over 40 billion of private investment into clean power unblocked, a record-breaking renewables auction. And by the way, she says that I'm somehow on the side of the wind developers. No, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm on the side of UK Steel, Make UK, the British Chambers of Commerce, Ceramics UK, businesses across the country who've said this is the right decision for the country. She says about bills. Let me just directly address this. Right, my strategy, my belief, is that it is a clean power system that can bring down bills for good. Why? Because that is the way you lower wholesale prices. That is the way that you get off the roller coaster. Homegrown, clean power, that is the answer for Britain. And I suggest, back in her post, she does some hard thinking about the past, about strategy, and about what is right for Britain.